In this video, I want to crack open the conversation about relationships. First off, the FileMaker platform is a fully relational database system. Back 25 years ago, FileMaker was a flat file database system, which means that you could build FileMaker layouts and they would look kind of more or less like they do now, but the relational connections were not there. And of course, that's been rectified in the early 90s, and as a result of that, FileMaker's been relational ever since. Now, the next important point is to remind you that a lot of power users within the FileMaker community use the FileMaker product line every day for many years without ever really learning about relationships. Maybe they don't even really learn how to do scripting. They just use the basic pieces of FileMaker to get their jobs done. And this is not uncommon. In fact, this is very common. However, learning relationships and learning about scripts are two of the more complex pieces of the FileMaker platform. Now with FM starting point, we've already relationally structured a lot of the relationships for you, so that's already been done. So some people never learn relationships because they don't have to. And of course, if you can use a piece of pre-built software and you never have to learn all the wiring under the hood, and you can get your job done, then that's fantastic. However, we're going to talk about the anchor buoy methodology, which is a way of managing the relational diagram. And of course, on the relational diagram are the tables or table occurrences that you're going to need to connect everything together. In a lot of ways, the relational diagram is like a big flat desert dry lake bed. You see these in movies sometimes, or maybe you've been to one of these yourself. It's a giant dried up lake bed that's perfectly flat and it's almost hard like concrete. And people go out there and will drive cars or shoot commercials or do all sorts of things. And of course, the one thing you notice is that there are no roads. And so people drive wherever they want. And of course, as people drive wherever they want, everything crisscrosses and there's no organization to it, which is kind of the cool part about a dry lake bed. But if that's your relational diagram and people are just connecting stuff everywhere, that makes for a real ugly mess. So what we try to do with the anchor buoy methodology is bring some order to the chaos, to provide you some rules for driving your car a certain way. And that way, when you come back later, you can understand what you built and how it works, which is really kind of the important part. You can build a relationship and make it an ugly mess, but the value to what we're doing here is to make it so that when you come back later or someone else comes back later and looks at your work, they can take it apart and understand it. If you're a normal business person, you're thinking about how to deliver a service or a product to a customer, how to get the money back from that customer, how to keep the business running, how to manage the staff and employees, make sure everyone's trained, all these important things that go on in your business or in your educational institution or maybe in your nonprofit. And the important thing to take away is that all these relationships are based upon real business needs. I want to remind you that a relationship is based upon two key fields. And that was the two key fields that made the bridge. In fact, if you have a hard time creating a relationship or understanding the relationship, the first step is to actually write down the business case. Write down the entity. So if you have a person that walks into the store, a business, the person is an entity. It's a noun. It's a thing. And then the store is a thing, or it's a business, or maybe it's a nonprofit. So you have to understand the entities and how they relate. So if a person goes into a store, then the store is a noun, the person's a noun, and their interaction back and forth is the basis of the relationship. So as you learn about relationships, think about the tangible pieces. Think about the people. Think about a purchase they make. If they make a purchase, then that is a transaction. What is a transaction? It might be an invoice, and that invoice might result in a receipt. So what would the relationships be? Well, somehow the person is connected to the transaction, right? And the transaction is connected to the business. You have to be capable of mapping out the basic elements to make all this work.